mischievous. I'm back with the 26 books of 2026, according to March of 2025 in Great Yarmouth. Anyway, it's like a tradition that's coming up now, okay, that every single year I now do like a Roald Dahl book. It's always good to look back on your books from your childhood with adult eyes, and classics after all. Anyway, Matilda by Roald Dahl, illustrations by Quentin Blake. Okay, here we go. Disgusting little blister, ignorant liar, cheat. Matilda by Roald Dahl. Matilda Wormer's father is a mean, crooked crook, as the mother's just plain stupid. They think Matilda is a nuisance who should watch more TV and read fewer books. But her lovely teacher, Miss Honey, thinks Matilda is a genius. Matilda has a few extraordinary tricks up her sleeve, so horrible parents and even more horrible headmistress had better watch out. We all know the story of Matilda. A great book by Roald Dahl, a great film directed by Danny DeVito of all things, whose wife, Rhea Perlman, played Miss Wormwood. He played Mr. Wormwood. Harry, okay, that was his character's name. And also the musical as well, which starred Emma Thompson of all things as Miss Trunchball. Now, okay, I'm going to be truly honest. The best Miss Trunchball is Pam Ferris. She was Miss Trunchball in the film, and she was absolutely fantastic because she's not normally known. It's not this juncture. At this juncture, she was more popular known in the UK, or playing the lovely Ma Larkin in The Darling Buzz May opposite what's his name, David Jason. So for her to actually become a mean, horrible, sinister character, and a great interview I found, I'm going to put it under, it's so beautiful, because that's the real Pam Ferris, and she's so nice and complimentary to the children who played the young ones. So, no, I adored the version. Now, the new one, okay, of Emma Thompson, I didn't like. No, first of all, the casting was great. I mean, the Miss Honey casting was fantastic. Matilda casting was brilliant. The Hortensia, who was never actually named in the film, incidentally, not in the musical. She's never named, but she's one in the red beret. That's Hortensia. And so I just didn't like Emma Thompson and Miss Trunchball. Pam Ferris Miss Trunchball was sinister. She was like a snake, a man the thip, you know. This, she felt a bit too shouty, a bit too forced. I just didn't get it. And also, I'm true to be honest, okay, some of the special effects, okay, were just a little bit, I just didn't like. The film was great, and the choreography was fantastic, and the casting was spot on, but I just felt Emma Thompson as Miss Trunchbull lacked it. And even though she's a wonderful actress, oh my gosh, she is one of the best actresses out there, but she wasn't Miss Trunchbull. The problem is, Pam Ferris' performance as Miss Trunchbull is so iconic that no one can ever really top that. It's impossible. Okay, anyway, so we all know the plot of Matilda. She's a genius who gains telekinetic abilities, played by Mara Wilson from Miss Doubtfire as young Matilda, and she was fantastic in that role. So here we are. But anyway, it's a book review. Some parents go further. They become so blinded by adoration, they manage to convince themselves that their child has qualities of genius. There's something quite wrong with this. It's the way of the world. It's only when when parents begin telling us about the brilliance of their own revolting offspring, that we start shouting, "Bring us a basin, we're going to be sick." Chapter called The Reader of Books. How most parents think their children are so wonderful, so lovely, okay? But then, opposite, occasionally, one comes across as parents who take the opposite line. Mr. and Mrs. Wormwood were two such parents. There's a son called Michael and a daughter called Matilda, and the parents looked upon Matilda in particular as nothing more than a scab. Right, so, but the thing is though, Matilda was born smart and no one actually notices this. Now, we all know the story, we've all seen at least one of the films. If you haven't watched them both, they are great, apart from Miss Trunchball. But the thing is, one thing is this, so when Matilda is barely more educated than a toddler, she goes to the library, and interesting too is her list of books. Now, this bit here, it's, some of the books are so adult in nature, right? Like Tessa de D'Urbervilles by Thomas Hardy, okay? Nicholas Nickleby, Oliver Twist, Jane Eyre. Jane Eyre's got the Mad Woman in the Attic, for God's sake. Pride and Prejudice. But it's Tessa de D'Urbervilles. Now, this is obviously Roald Dahl, okay, the creator of the thing. Kind of makes it clear, everyone reading this thinking, wait, what? Okay. Is when Matilda's talking to Miss Phelps about the books that she reads. And this bit here. A fine writer will always make you feel that. Okay, when Matilda's talking about, I love the way she's talking about Mr. Hemingway. especially about men and women, but I loved it all the same. The way he tells it, I feel like I'm right down the spot watching it all happen. A fine writer will always make you feel that. And then why care about the bits you can't understand? Sit back and allow the words to wash around you like music. So, just because of those who don't know, Tess of the D'Urbervilles has a scene which, if you're a Mills and Boon writer, would describe as a forced seduction. That's it. A forced seduction. You can guess I'm going with that. So, and the fact that she's a toddler and she's read that, you're like, wait, what? Wait, okay. And one thing I do love about Matilda is her attitude. Now, obviously, as it is, now she's very, very smart, but she doesn't actually realise it herself. She just takes her kind of her own education for granted. Now, she knows that she's smart and smarter than her parents, but it's not really been described yet. You're an absolute genius. In a way, as it comes natural to her, she just thinks it's pretty much natural to everyone aside from her family. Here you go. And this bit here, one thing I love about Matilda is her attitude. Another thing Matilda resented was being told constantly that she was ignorant and stupid when she knew she wasn't. The anger lay inside of her went on boiling and boiling, and she lay in bed that night. She made a decision, decided that every time her father or mother was beastly to her, she would get her own back in some way or another. A small victory or two would help her tolerate the idiocies and would stop her from going crazy. You must remember that she was still hardly 5 years old, and it's not easy for someone as small as her to score points against an all-powerful grown-up. Even so, she determined to have a go. Determined to have a go. Her father, after what happened in front of the telly that evening, was first on the list. Oh, this was when she finds out her father's a crook selling dodgy cars. Her brother Michael is in this book as well. He's just as ignorant as the parents, but obviously that's not Michael's fault. He's raised in this environment. It's not the fact that he's like towing the line. He just doesn't know any different. His family's ignorant and he accepts it. Absolutely. And the thing is this, there's little things in this book which are in the films. One involving a parrot. Matilda puts up a chimney that's not actually appeared in any media because it's kind of out there. And it's quite funny because she mentions actually as Charles Dickens. Well, Charles Dickens, as a writer, wrote his chapters like serials. His books were actually serialized in magazines. So, basically, every single chapter ended on a hook, if you will. However, people want to know what they did next. Starts as a series of episodes until it actually builds to Matilda going to school and meeting Miss Honey. Right. But the thing is this. One thing reading this as an adult I did notice is Mrs. Wormwood, Matilda's mother. Now, various things, okay, it's just when Matilda basically dyes her father's hair white, okay, and mixes up the hair dyes. And this bit here, for Matilda, right, he does some pretty silly things now again, doesn't he, Mummy? Matilda said. The mother Dinah said on the phone, I'm afraid men are not always quite as clever as they think they are. You will learn that when you get a bit older, my girl. Very moments in this book, the mother appears quite tender towards Matilda, which makes me kind of wonder more about her character. I mean, is Matilda's mother secretly smart? Is she or above average intelligence? It seems like in a way, did she kind of toe the line, if you will, when she married Harry? Not much is described about her, apart from the fact she's ignorant, but when she drops lines like this, are moments where she actually is quite tender towards her daughter. I just think there's more to Miss Wormwood than we actually can imagine. Anyway, further along, Matilda goes to school, meets Miss Honey. Now, in the film, she's actually played by an actress called Embeth Davids, who I absolutely adore, and she's also in Schindler's List, of all things. I mean, but she even says, people still come up to her and says, I love you as Miss Honey, because that's that iconic. Here we are. But when we talk about Miss Honey, Miss Jennifer Honey, we talk about the Trunchball, played by acclaimed Pam Ferris. Oh my God, that performance. Miss Trunchball, the headmistress, was something else altogether. She was a gigantic holy terror, a fierce tyrannical monster who frightened the life out of pupils and teachers alike. There's an aura of menace about her, even at a distance. When she came up close to you, you can almost feel the dangerous heat radiating her, a red hot rod of metal. When she marched, Miss Trunchball never walked. She always marched like a stormtrooper, with long strides and arms swinging. When she marched along a corridor, you could actually hear her snorting as she went. And if a group of children happened to be in her path, she powered right on them, right on freedom like a tank. With some people bouncing off her to left and right. There you go. The Trunchball. the absolute Trunchball. He runs this school. Crunchum Is it Crunchum actually in the book? So, oh no, it just says, oh no, it's Crunchum. Sorry. Yeah, Crunchum. So, Crunchum. Typical Roald Dahl wordplay right there. So, when Honey meets Matilda, and one thing about Matilda is she is actually a really good soul. Some of the other children are quite arrogant with their intelligence, but she's not. She is there to learn and be educated. But this bit here, right? Miss Honey was feeling quite quivery. There was no doubt in her mind that she truly meant a truly extraordinary mathematical brain, and words like child genius and prodigy went flitting through her head. She knew that those sorts of wonders do pop up in the world from time to time, but only once or twice in 100 years. After all, Mozart was only 5 when he started composing for the piano, and look what happened to him. It's not fair, Lavender said. How can she do it and we can't? And Miss Honey's like, oh, you can do it later. You know, it's absolutely no problem. You'll soon catch up. Lying through her teeth. I love Jennifer Honey. I absolutely adored her. Absolutely. However, there's a nice little bit to get. I don't know if this was Roald Dahl, the author, throwing a little bit of shade here. But oh, by the way, since past like year or so, they've actually taken older books like this. This book isn't even that old, by the way. This book came out when I was a child. Right, when this book came out, 1988. I was 8 when this book came out. Right. The book came out in 1988, but now, okay, they're going through and taking out the offensive bits. We love the offensive bits. We love it. Okay. But this bit here, okay, funny enough, from Roald Dahl, typical turn of phrase, when she's talking, okay, about the books that she loves. I like the line The Witch in the Wardrobe, Matilda said. I think Mr. C.S. Lewis is a very good writer, but he has one failing. There are no funny bits in his books. You're right there, Miss Honey. There aren't many funny bits in Mr. Tolkien either. Right. Well, do you think all children's books ought to have funny bits to them? I do, Matilda said. Children are so serious as grown-ups, and they love to laugh. Here you go. And she likes to have this bit that I'm very fond of Charles Dickens, especially Mr. Pickwick. Now, in the film, with Mara Wilson film, she actually says, instead of saying Charles Dickens, she says Dahl's Chickens. That's actually a reference to the BFG. The BFG says Dahl's Chickens instead of Charles Dickens. I just want to throw that in there. Hey, I've read my Roald Dahl. Okay, I know my Roald Dahl, thank you very much. Right. And when Miss Honey goes to Matilda's parents with their ignorance and that kind of thing, there's one thing, as I said before, a little bit more to Miss Wormwood, which kind of comes across here. Now, just imagine this as Rhea Perlman and Danny DeVito because they were great in the role. Right. Now look at me, Miss Wormwood said. Then look at you. You chose books, I chose looks. What did you say? Miss Honey asked. I said you chose books and I chose looks. And look who's finished better off. Me, of course. I said you're pretty in a nice house with a successful businessman, and you're left slaving away teaching a load of nasty little children their ABCs. She chose books, not looks, but is there more to Miss Wormwood? It kind of makes you wonder. She says, I chose this, or I chose to live in ignorance with Harry, practically pretending that he's not a con man. I think there is more to Miss Wormwood. I can't help but think that. Reading these books as an adult, you kind of notice more. And compared to the film, these books are very kind of episodic. And little things like when Lavender finds the newt, right, and puts it in Miss Trunchball's glass. Matilda was there at the time. It shows Matilda's social life, her and her friends. Little bits like, you know, her, Bruce Bogtrotter, that kind of thing, all together. So just various little bits in this book which shows, compared to the film, which shows people by themselves, compared to the films, which kind of make it a bit more of a community, more of a collective kind of thing. So, if you will. Anyway, but of course, as Harry is a total con man when it comes to his cars, he puts sawdust in the engines and turns back the speed dial with a machine, right? This little bit here. He's a crook, Miss Trunchball shouted about Harry Wormwood. A week ago he sold me a second-hand car I said was almost new, and I thought that he was a splendid fellow, right? But this morning, when I was driving that car through the village, the entire engine fell out of the road. The whole thing was filled with sawdust. The man's a thief and a robber. I have his skin for sausages. You'll see if I don't. He's clever at his business, Matilda said. Clever, my foot. Miss Anne tells me you are meant to be clever. Well, madam, I don't like clever people. They're all crooked. You're most certainly crooked. Fall out with your father, tell me the most nasty stories about the way you behaved at home, but you better not try to. So so you'll be better to try anything in the school, young lady. I'd be keeping a very careful eye on you from now on. Little thing here when she says he's clever at his business. In a way, yeah, you can actually say, okay, Matilda's speaking up for her father, right? Because he's clever at his business. But of course, she's also saying, okay, it's clever at his business as being a goddamn crook. I'm sorry he's one of your victims. Please don't have it in for me. And then the first miracle, as called in the book, is when Lavender, Matilda's best friend, puts the newt in the glass, which is for Miss Trunchball going to the classroom. Okay? Oh, Miss Agatha Trunchball. She's called Miss Agatha Trunchball. Right. It's when the description of Matilda's telekinesis. Now, this bit here, right? There's another feeling which was something else altogether, which she could not understand. It was that flashes of lightning, little waves of lightning that seemed to be flashing out of her eyes. Her eyes were beginning to get hot, as though vast energy was building up somewhere inside them. It was an amazing sensation. She kept her eyes steadily on the glass. Now the power was concentrating itself in one small part of each eye, growing stronger, and she felt as though millions of tiny invisible arms with hands on them were shooting out of her eyes towards the glass she was staring at. Tip it, Matilda whispered. Tip it over. And the glass falls and it does. So, yeah, she has to get angry to do it. Now, in the musical, it kind of gives a suggestion that Matilda has got a kind of like a link to Magnus, which is Miss Honey's father. Matilda keeps having dreams, which turn out to be dreams of the past, basically remnants of the past. And it's really kind of psychic ability, if you will, to Magnus, as if kind of giving the suggestion that it's Magnus, Miss Honey's late father, giving her this power. Right. That's kind of like the actual thing. And also, one thing this book does not even shy away is it does talk about child abuse. Miss Honey. This book talks about child abuse, torture, PTSD, which Miss Jennifer Honey has in spades when she takes Matilda home after Matilda fails to tip the glass, and Miss Honey opens up about her life. It was comfortable to do it. What I think is very, very strange, but she's a very exceptional girl. And this bit here from Miss Jennifer Honey. Up to now, Miss Honey said, I found it possible to talk to anyone about my problems. I couldn't face the embarrassment, and anyway, I lacked the courage. Any courage I had was knocked out of me when I was young. When all of a sudden I have a sort of desperate wish to tell everything to someone. I know you're only a tiny little girl, but there's some kind of magic in you. I've seen it with my own eyes. Once again, is that Magnus? Is that Magnus' spirit, if you will, kind of giving Jennifer the courage to speak to Matilda? Right, the musical, that's kind of like, with that. But, yeah, where is this coming from? And when she talks, okay, about her life, okay, of being held down, having a bath being held down under the water, by actually being absolutely tortured by this woman. The older she got, she had to keep cooking and cleaning. Here you go. And this bit here, I went to teacher training when I was 18, Miss Honey said. Could have packed up and walked away. Not until I got a job, Miss Honey said. And don't forget, I was by then dominated by my aunt to such an extent that I wouldn't have dared. You can't imagine what's like to be completely controlled like that, by a very strong personality like that. It turns you to jelly, so that's it. And it's that story of my life. But now I've talked enough. So, and then when she decides to leave, her aunt says, oh well, I owe you a lot of money because I now need to pay me your salary for years, because all the money, okay, I spent feeding you and clothing you and living in your father's house. Yeah, because Agatha Trunchball falsified the will. Yeah. So, and which leads to the moment in the film, the Mara Wilson film, where she goes into the house to take Lissy Doll. And by the way, if you take Lissy Doll was actually a nickname for Roald Dahl's daughter, Lissy Doll. And also the picture of Magnus is a portrait of Roald Dahl. I just want to, next time you watch that film, that's the thing, that's not Magnus. Magnus's portrait is actually Roald Dahl's portrait. So, Here you go. So, as we all know, from Matilda uses the chalkboard to, write out letters from Magnus. This is Magnus, get out of the house, leave my Jenny alone, and get out of town, which she actually does. She absolutely does. In the film, it's a bit more, but in the book, she basically gets just run out of town and just runs away after she passes out. It's very, very brief. She writes the Matilda writes the letters, right, after she's learned how to harness her powers. Miss Trunchball, Agatha passes out, and then she literally runs away. She's never seen again. And then, first of all, and most finally of all, Matilda loses her powers. Now, the film and the musical have kept that. They've absolutely kept that twist to it. But in this, she loses them. Right. It's once again due to the ambiguity of Magnus kind of using Matilda, if you will. But this bit here, right. There's only a guess, but here's what I think. When you were in my class, you had nothing to do, nothing to make you struggle. Your faint brain was going crazy with frustration. It was bubbling and boiling away like mad inside your head. As tremendous energy bolted up inside you with nowhere to go, and somehow or other, you were able to shoot that energy out through your eyes, make objects move. Now things are different. You're in a talk form competing against children more than twice your age, and all that mental energy is being used up in class. Your brain for the first time is your brain for the first time is having to struggle and strive and keep really busy. It's only a theory. And Matilda's actually quite glad about that because she actually gets to be normal, even though she is very, very smart. I like the fact, okay, of Matilda. She's at a point in her life where she has everything she actually wants and needs. She doesn't need her powers whatsoever. And I do like that. It's like her powers are gone because she's with people who's got good friends and a happy life, even though her family are still crooks. But then, okay, they have to run away together because overseas because people are now after Harry, right? And in the Mara Wilson film, Miss Matilda actually learned to Xerox, okay? So she actually has adopted papers with her. And in the musical, I can't really remember. No, I do remember. She just stays in Miss Honey once her parents go away. It's like, oh, the musical film doesn't have Michael, but it does have at the beginning. Mr. One disappointed that it doesn't have a son, and kind of takes it out of Matilda. And then at the end of the film, actually acknowledges that he even has a daughter. So this bit here, right? Last bit. When Matilda's parents actually do the only good thing for their daughter, is this bit here. Come on, Harry, her mother said. If we don't let her go, why don't we let her go if that's what she really wants? If we want less to look after. I'm in a hurry. I've got the plane to catch. If you want to stay, let her stay. It's fine with me. And here you go. Their brother gave a wave through the rear window, but the other two didn't even look back. Miss Honey was still hugging the tiny girl in her arms, and neither of them said a word as they stood there watching the big black car turn around the corner at the end of the road and disappear forever in the distance. That's how it ends. So, and as we all know from the films, they're having a great life with Miss Honey as a mum. One thing I haven't read this book since I was a little girl. I forgot how blatant it was with the child abuse. As Jennifer Honey's talking about what Miss Trunchball did to her. I mean, it does pain me in a way, okay, that these films are being modified for Monday audience when these books came out 30 years ago. Why? They're modern day classics for a reason. Generations have grown up loving Matilda for this reason. It's a wonderful book because it doesn't hold back on ignorance of their lack of education. It doesn't also hold back, okay, on crooks getting exactly what they deserve. It doesn't hold back, okay, on wicked people getting their comeuppance. Also doesn't hold back, okay, on the fact is that Matilda has a found family. I mean, the films kind of show this in more detail, but she gets good friends around her and she absolutely starts to enjoy her life. No, I really, really love Matilda. I think it's a wonderful, wonderful book. And it's quite funny because reading it 30 years after I read it as a child, when I was about 9, I think it's wonderful. So, yeah, I'm signing off here. Bye now.